News just broke across the world. A massive explosion has ripped through one of Russia's most critical military rail routes, a lifeline that connected Moscow's supply network to the front lines in eastern Ukraine. The blast didn't just stop a train. It paralyzed a key artery of the Russian war machine. The night sky burned with fire as flames climbed hundreds of feet into the air, marking one of the boldest Ukrainian strikes since the start of the war. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my videos. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel Future X USA. Today, we're diving deep into the shocking destruction of Russia's military rail route, how Ukraine pulled it off, and what happened right after that changed everything. It all began late at night when reports started flooding in from Russian telegram channels. Something big had happened deep behind enemy lines. A loud explosion, flashes in the distance, and then silence. Satellite images later confirmed the truth. Ukraine had struck a heavily fortified military rail line carrying weapons, fuel, and ammunition. This wasn't just a transport route. It was the lifeblood of Russia's entire logistics system feeding the war effort. For months, intelligence sources had spoken of this route as untouchable. Protected by Russian air defenses, constantly monitored, and shielded by jamming systems. But Ukraine had been patient. It studied patterns, watched the movements, and waited for the perfect moment. And then, in one precise coordinated operation, it hit with surgical accuracy. The strike destroyed not just the tracks but the trains loaded with explosives and fuel, setting off a chain reaction that turned miles of steel into molten wreckage. The heat from the blast could be felt kilometers away. Russia's own media tried to downplay it, calling it a technical incident, but no one bought that story. The satellite imagery told a different tale. Twisted metal, burning fields, and an entire section of railway rendered useless. Trains stopped, supply lines frozen, and chaos spreading across Russia's logistics network. In a single night, Ukraine had cut off the artery that kept the Russian front lines alive. From the outside, this was a marvel of modern warfare. The Russian military rail route was no ordinary transport system. It was a massive, fortified structure designed to survive air attacks and sabotage. Steel walls, underground tunnels, and fuel lines buried beneath reinforced concrete. Yet Ukraine's engineers and intelligence experts managed to find its weakest link. The operation was carried out using next-generation drones capable of traveling hundreds of kilometers, flying under radar coverage, and pinpointing exact coordinates using real-time satellite data. These drones weren't just weapons. They were symbols of precision, discipline, and intelligence. Inside the operation, the coordination was breathtaking. Ukrainian drone operators, intelligence analysts, and cyber units worked together in perfect sync. The drones were programmed to strike at exact intervals, one after another, to maximize destruction and confusion. Russian defenses were jammed electronically seconds before impact. Communications went dark. No orders, no response, just silence, and then a storm of explosions. By the time Russia realized what was happening, it was too late. Every drone had already hit its target and self-destructed, leaving no trace of the technology behind. The entire mission was over in minutes, but its impact would last for weeks. The performance of Ukraine's new strike drones stunned even military experts. These machines were small, fast, and nearly invisible to radar. Each carried a compact payload designed for maximum damage. When detonated over trains loaded with ammunition and fuel, they triggered massive secondary explosions that multiplied their effect. The entire operation reportedly cost less than $1 million, but the damage inflicted ran into the billions. Russian analysts privately admitted that this was one of the most effective precision strikes of the entire war. The performance of Ukraine's drone network had crossed a new threshold. No longer experimental, but deadly, efficient, and unstoppable. As Ukraine refined its performance, it also perfected its safety systems. Every part of the mission was designed to avoid civilian casualties. No human operatives were sent across the border. Everything was controlled remotely. Each drone was equipped with a self-destruct mechanism, ensuring that, if intercepted, it would explode mid-air before falling into Russian hands. This not only protected Ukrainian technology, but also prevented the possibility of reverse engineering. Even the digital codes used for navigation were encrypted and temporary, vanishing minutes after the mission ended. This level of operational safety and secrecy showed how advanced Ukraine's military intelligence had become under wartime pressure. What made this strike truly unique wasn't just the destruction, it was the message. Ukraine had just told Russia and the entire world that there is no safe zone anymore. It showed that even the most fortified routes, even those buried under multiple layers of defense, could be reached and destroyed. This was psychological warfare at its finest. Russian soldiers at the front began to worry about their supplies, their fuel, their food. Every train that moved after that attack carried a shadow of fear. Would it be next? Would it reach its destination? Would it make it through the night? Ukraine had turned logistics into a weapon. The uniqueness of this operation also came from how it combined technology and timing. Ukraine's engineers used AI-driven mapping to track every train that passed through that line. Drones loitered in the air, invisible, waiting for the right target. One carrying high-value cargo, probably missiles or fuel. Once confirmed, the order was given, and the attack began. It wasn't just a strike. It was a statement. Modern war is no longer about tanks and manpower, it's about intelligence, precision, and control of the invisible battlefield. The price of this operation is almost symbolic. For less than the cost of a single tank, Ukraine managed to cripple a supply line worth billions. Russia lost ammunition, fuel, and transport vehicles, but more importantly, it lost time. And in war, time is everything. Every hour that supplies don't reach the front lines is an hour of weakness. That weakness spreads, it multiplies, it breaks morale. Ukrainian sources claim that within 48 hours of the strike, Russian troops at several frontline positions reported shortages in ammunition and delayed reinforcements. That's the power of strategic warfare, changing the outcome of battles without even being there. In the aftermath, Russia scrambled to repair the damage. Military engineers worked day and night under the protection of armed guards. Trains were rerouted hundreds of kilometers away, costing the Russian army days of delay. But every time a new section was repaired, Ukrainian drones hovered nearby, watching, waiting, reminding them that no repair could ever make them safe again. Western intelligence confirmed that Russia moved anti-air systems and radar units closer to the area, further stretching its already thin defenses. In short, Ukraine's single strike forced Russia to spread its resources thinner, exposing other areas to future attacks. The long-term consequences of this strike could reshape the war. It proved that technology could beat traditional firepower. It showed that intelligence, speed, and precision can outweigh size, armor, and numbers. Ukraine's modern approach to warfare, using data, drones, and strategy, has turned the tide. And behind every successful operation lies a message to the rest of the world. Wars are no longer fought only on land. They're fought in the airwaves, in cyberspace, in data streams, and in the mind. As news of the explosion spread, reactions poured in. Western allies praised the precision and professionalism of the operation. Russia condemned it as an act of terrorism, but offered no proof of who was responsible. Meanwhile, independent observers pointed out that the explosion targeted purely military infrastructure, far from any civilian settlements. In many ways, this was a new kind of warfare, one that tries to minimize human casualties while maximizing tactical impact. Ukraine's evolving strategy is proving that war can be smart, focused, and devastating all at once. What happened next, however, changed everything. In response to the attack, Russia launched a wave of retaliatory missile strikes across Ukraine. Yet, most of those missiles were intercepted by Ukraine's air defense systems. Russia spent millions on these retaliations, and once again, Ukraine's technological advantage showed. The contrast was clear. One side spends millions for little effect, while the other spends thousands to achieve maximum damage. This new phase of warfare is not about who has more weapons, but who can use them smarter. The destruction of the rail route is now being studied by military analysts around the world. It's being compared to historical turning points, where a single blow changed the rhythm of an entire conflict. Ukraine's ability to adapt, innovate, and strike precisely is reshaping the definition of modern power. The world is witnessing the dawn of asymmetric warfare, where smaller nations can challenge superpowers using brains over brute force. And this moment, the destruction of Russia's key military rail route, will be remembered as one of the most strategic and symbolic strikes of this generation. The conclusion of this story isn't just about a railway, it's about evolution. The war in Ukraine has shown that courage and intelligence can stand against massive armies. Every strike like this one brings Ukraine closer to leveling the playing field. The message is simple but powerful. Technology, precision, and unity can overcome even the mightiest of forces. And as both sides regroup and prepare for the next chapter, the world watches closely, knowing that one act of precision can change the course of history. This was more than just an explosion. It was a message written in fire, a signal that the old rules no longer apply. Ukraine has rewritten the playbook, and the world is taking notes. My friends, if you want to stay updated with the truth behind the world's biggest power shifts, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Future X USA, where we uncover the untold stories that shape our future. Because as this war unfolds, one thing is clear. Every explosion has a story, and every story brings us closer to understanding the new face of global power.